Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to The Sims 4 and welcome back to a speed build. Today we're doing a fairy house. I'm kind of excited. Obviously with the new pack had to do a fairy build here. I was kind of nervous about it though because it's very sort of out of my realm of decorating. Like the plants make sense, the cottagecore definitely more my thing, but the like whimsical side of things a little bit like out of my norm. And so I had a lot of fun, but I was a little bit nervous how it was going to turn out. Took me a little while to get right. You'll notice the video starts without a floor plan. That's because I wasn't actually going to build a house. I was going to build a living room, and then I sort of had an idea for a porch, and then I sort of had an idea for a kitchen, and then I sort of had, you know how it rolls, and all of a sudden I had a house, and then I had to roof it, and I almost gave up on it. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I started recording kind of after like the main shell, where I was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe this is a full house, maybe this is like a whole thing. And even then, there were like some parts where I like decided on the fly. I was like, oh, it needs a basement. Well, it needs a cellar kind of thing. And the cellar is accessed from the outside of the house. It's I guess more of like a root cellar, but I did add it in because the thought behind it was like, it's just a little bit of extra space because the house looks quite big, but it's not actually very big. It's actually quite tiny. It does function. Well, I player tested it, but it's quite cluttered and it's quite tiny. It's one bedroom, one bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen with a dine-in space, but only for 2 Sims. And then obviously the basement, which I was considering like your room for activities, you know, your room for storage. Sims accumulate things. You don't necessarily want to get rid of them, but you don't necessarily want to see them, or maybe like it's the cupcake machine, so you need it, but it doesn't quite fit the vibe, like that kind of thing. Here we're doing the outside, and I went with a lot of reclaimed dark woods and things like that. Honestly, I don't know. So every lot that I've built on, either on the channel here or personally, I'm struggling a little bit with the lighting in this world. It's glorious and ethereal and very, you know, pink and pretty, and it makes it really hard to match wood tones. Because I will get a wood tone and I'll be like, oh, that matches perfectly, and then I will change the time of day and I'm like, those are completely different. Like the trim on the roof, I'm not fully convinced it matches the roof. I'm not fully convinced it makes sense, but like it's the closest we got, so here we are. And I changed the wood tones on this house quite a bit, but I like that it's very dark and cozy and it feels like part of the tree because we're on this lot that is really cool. It's kind of hard to see here in speed build mode, but it's actually sat in the middle, like it's in the crook of a tree. So I kind of wanted the house to look sort of like it had maybe been carved out of the tree or like grew out of the tree, because I was imagining, like I was having like a Thumbelina moment. Which, for those of you who aren't familiar with Thumbelina, I haven't, like, read the story or seen the movies in such a long time that I don't even remember the tale. But the crux of it is she's a tiny little person who could, like, sleep in a teacup kind of thing. And that's kind of the vibes, like, this lot gives me, is, like, we're in the crook of a tree. It's very, Pixie Hollow, for those of you who are Disney fans. It's very Pixie Hollow. Oh goodness, which I haven't thought about in quite a while. That game was very fun. That was like an online game from like mid-2000s, I guess. I'm trying to remember when I played it. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, that's the vibe this was giving off. So of course it was perfect for a fairy home. A little cute, sort of like cozy, closed in, you know. And also I was like, there's a little bit of like witch vibes in here too. I don't think that's bad, like spellcaster vibes. This could totally be a spellcaster's house too. I put a lot of greenery on the roofs, and can I just say it is a very cool feature, and I can't wait for them to patch it. I am so confused by how this works. Ultimately, I went with these little flowery, like shrubbery things that kind of look like moss, and they kind of gave the effect that I ended up ultimately going for. I just sort of peppered them all over the roof where they would fit. But it's difficult. It's difficult. I was never really a plant on the roof kind of person beforehand. So I can't really speak to how easy it was before, because, like, roofing in general makes me break out in hives. I'm joking. But I kind of can't wait till they make that better. It was really hard to put plants up there. And there was definitely a part of me that was like, do I just go into debug and get debug plants and just, like, make this work the way I think it should work? I don't know. I think the thing that bothers me is it's not affected by move objects. The move objects sheet does not affect it, and like I think I'd feel a lot better about it if they let us use the move object sheet and we're just like, hey, it might look hella ugly or it might not like act right. I'd be fine with that. I'd live. You know, just like let me scoot it like half an inch to the left. Regardless, I think the roof turns out cool. I think we got there in the end. It's just gonna take a while to get used to that tool, and to be honest with you, I don't know how often I'm gonna be building fairy houses, so maybe it doesn't matter that much. I can also see it being really cool and like the Horse Ranch World, which has disappeared out of my head, the name of it, but like being able to put like maybe a little bit of like greenery on, you know, where it would have been cool is like we just not too long ago did a house on the channel that was meant to look like it had been abandoned for a while. Putting some moss up on that roof would have been cool. That would have made it look very much abandoned, and it would have been something for the player to fix when they go on and fix it up. Here we're laying out the basic bones. You're going to see me kind of go from room to room and kind of just lay out the like main things. Kind of did this house in a little bit of a bounce back and forth order. It wasn't intentional, and it's not great for a speed build. But again, I didn't go in with a plan for this house. I sort of, like, it was a living room, and then it just grew. So there was a constant battle of me going, oh, but I didn't actually think this through, like, what's next? Oh, but I didn't actually think this through, how do I do this? You know, that kind of thing. Like, realizing there's no dining room. Realizing there's really no place for a dining room. Hoping that this kind of fits in the kitchen. And it does, a two-seater. You'd have to bunch it out a little bit more to get more. And you absolutely could. Like, this house could be expanded on very easily, I think. You could expand out onto the porch. You could just push a wall out. There's lots of room still on the slide, if you're thinky about it. And honestly, you could go up and down, because I think, what is it now? There's 2 basement levels, and you can go like 4 stories up or something like that. Lots of room for expansion if you needed to and still wanted to work on the slot. Honestly, it'd be really fun to build like a little fairy apartment complex here in the tree. Like make it, I don't know how you would do that. You'd probably have to use a lot of debug to make it look like it was growing out of the tree. I don't know if I have the skills to do that, but like someone more talented than I, please take that idea and run with it. Might have to do that. Might have to try it at some point. For some reason I decided this bathroom needed to be pink. It doesn't stay pink. It does change. I ended up leaning in a little bit more fairy, but it does stay very light and pink adjacent. So, yeah, I don't know why. I got really attached to the idea of this bathroom being pink. It didn't fit the rest of the house. It didn't make any sense. We get there in the end. I would still call it a pink bathroom in the end, but it's definitely less pink than it is here right now. I think what happened is I wanted to use that sink, and my favorite swatch of that one particular sink is pink. That rhymed. And that's where like the pink idea came from, but I just really wanted like a cozy kind of archaic is not a word, but like older looking bathroom. I don't know why, but I just kind of associate like little fairy houses with like that idea of like, it's not totally modern. There is a TV in this house just because I wanted to make sure there was a fun, neat option. There's not a computer, but there's a place for a computer because there's a table. But just like that kind of older vibe, that very cottagey vibe, felt very fairy to me. I really wanted to use these tiles too, but these backsplash pieces don't work very well with a window. I really wish there was a way to make them work with windows, because that would make me use them all of the time. I did end up ultimately layering them in such a way that I think it works okay. I should have put tile underneath, I think, looking at it now, and I might do that before it goes up in the gallery, because I left the wood in the bathroom just for continuity and ease, to be honest with you. But looking at it, I think maybe where the tiles are, it might be nice to put a tile in, so I might do that. Just because, you know, you get splashing and wood warps and things like that. Here we're working in the basement, and the basement, funnily enough, was the part that I ended up liking the least, and I was just dreading, and I was like, but I need a little bit more space in this house. I think I wanted some space to grow for functionality's sake, like I was saying. I just wanted like a skills room or something. It just felt like, because I had packed this house so full of stuff, I was like, there really needs to be room for the player to be able to like do things, you know, like actually like grow and make their skills better. There was obviously like an apothecary table in the kitchen, which was one of the goals. I wanted an apothecary table because it matches the kitchen swatches. I was like, I want it in the kitchen. I want it to, you know, look like a part of things. And there is a flower arranging table outside, and there's an easel on the balcony here. So there's lots of skill building in the house. But like sometimes you just come up on weird things. Like your sim is all of a sudden like, yo, I'm into astronomy, and you're just like, okay, I'm finding spaces for this, I guess, now, you know. Maybe not. Maybe that's just a me issue. But that way that basement just kind of functions as like, okay, I guess I'm finding space for this now. I went very low-key out here on the balcony. It didn't feel like a space that someone was going to use a ton, so just an easel and a bench, a very calm zen place. You could put a yoga table out there. You could do all kinds of things. And then this little area out here. I honestly made this entire, like, porch area I guess it would be a deck. It wouldn't really be a porch. I don't actually know the difference. Well, I guess a porch would be covered. So part of it is porch, part of it is deck? Question mark? It doesn't matter. It's a work area. There's a lot of plant pots out here. There ends up being this flower arranging table. And then if you give me a minute, I do end up turning this non-functional flower setup here that I love so much. And I really wish it was a flower arranging table. This little, like, I guess it would be a potting station, but it's non-functional. I end up using the trick we've been using in the last couple builds here to just turn it into a desk, which is you put a normal desk, you size it down, you slot the thing that needs a desk onto the now sized down desk because it will slot like normal, right? The slots don't change. And then you slot a chair to it because that will still work. And then you just player test it and it usually works. And in this case it does. So it makes it look like that potting station is now a place to press flowers. We actually made a little flower print. I didn't put it in the house, but made a little flower print to test. I did put the Plant Sim stump on the slot because I thought that would be fun. They seem to have really pushed Plant Sims. It's not the only way to become a Plant Sim anymore. It's not even the most efficient way to become a Plant Sim, but it's fun to do. So I thought it'd be fun to have on the lot. It's something that felt like it fit with this world. And then next to it, I went ahead and put the little fairy house. I did put the custom fairy house just because it was a stump and that felt appropriate for this lot. The special rewards, the pre-order stump, I should say, which is a fairy house, but it's like hidden. It kind of looks like a fairy house. You could totally do the normal fairy house and it would not change the aesthetic at all. In fact, the normal fairy house, very, very cute. Here I'm just painting the roofs, and then here you'll probably see, I think I cut most of it out, but it was a really funny glitch, so I left some of it in. At some point here, you will just notice all of the ceilings stay, and they don't disappear, and I had to fully relock the game. It was just like, all you need is ceilings, and it got like progressively worse, which was really funny to me, because you can't see anything when the ceilings are up. And here I was playing with the lighting. That doesn't stay. That was way too cluttered. I loved the vibe of the lighting out here, but those lights are kind of cluttered, not in a bad way. In the right application, they look great, but they just didn't work for what I was trying to do out here. I ultimately just ended up hanging that branch size down, and I ended up changing the colors to make it just a little bit warmer out here. The joys of having a sim on lot. I can't wait till they ultimately decide to let us change the lighting without a sim on lot. Although in this particular case, I needed a sim anyway because I needed to test things like the flower pressing and make sure they could path like successfully through the house, which they can. They can do all the things. The living room is definitely the weirdest pathing just because it's very cluttered. You'll see that here in a bit, but it's not like inaccessible at all. And I actually used these bookshelves from the Gemology kit, which I can't remember the official name of, but they worked so well in here. They were just like ethereal enough, which I really, really love. This lot does use about 1 million packs, and I am really sorry about that, but I was just having so much fun putting some of those like more like whimsical swatches or like more colorful, kind of silly, playful swatches that I almost never use, but I love getting to put those to work. I'm a big fan of like trying to find ways to put like colorful swatches in normal houses, but that's not always achievable, right? Like sometimes you have like a Joanna Gaines moment and you're like, look at this yellow couch, and everyone's like, that is aesthetically weirdly very pleasing, despite the fact that everything else about this house is very like white and black and or whatever. But sometimes it just doesn't quite work. And in this house I was like, I have the opportunity to use all the wild swatches. I'm gonna kind of use all the wild swatches. So went a little crazy with packs, and I do apologize for that. I think for the most part, if you were to like download this house and not have like laundry day or something, I think you could probably, most of the kits, it's like 1 or 2 things, and you'd probably be okay. It would be worth an investigate. I think I owe you guys a base game home here pretty soon, because I keep doing these like really I'm very lucky, and I really enjoy getting to build with all of the fun stuff they've given us. I also used the plant railings in here. I thought it made sense because I did the entire bedroom with like all of their little plant friends around, right? Like they have all of their best friends hanging out with them. And so it made sense to me to have the plant railing. Jury's out, that might be a little bit weird. I liked it. And then I used these cute little like lacy curtains over all of the little windows, except obviously the bigger ones I tried to use the plants over the top, which were fiddly. It's when you have like a swooshy window, it's kind of hard to get curtains to make sense. Because, like, where do you hang them? I suppose the answer is floor to ceiling. But, like, that's not really an option in a sense. That mirror isn't usable. It kind of wasn't intended to be. It's just there to, like, be tall. To be honest with you, it's just there to be tall. But the sim will flip out because the dresser's not a wonk. So, you might be able to get it to work. I couldn't get it. She was not interested. And that's fine. My test sim was like, nah, man. I was like, okay, there's a mirror in the bathroom. You're fine. Not the end of the world. At least for my applications here. But I liked the way it looked. I liked it being hung behind that kind of askew dresser. I thought that felt very playful and fun here. And then we're back down in the living room, which the living room I think is my favorite room. The bedroom I love because it has a very sort of like in the Treetops treehouse vibe, which makes total sense for this lot, right? Obviously. This living room has much more like Hobbit hole vibes, I think, very sort of cozy and earthy. And I love the dichotomy there, but I also love the cohesion there that ends up happening. Like, the same sim definitely lives in both of these areas, even though they both give off different vibes. And I can see, like, their different use cases. Like, curling up by the fire in the evening, sold. Waking up in the morning in that beautiful treehouse room, sold, right? Like, it makes sense. Here, I had the TV because I wanted them to be able to use the TV, but I did try to hide it. I tried to make it look, like, obviously I'm using a frame TV. I'm trying to hide it behind a bunch of stuff. I don't want it to be the focus of the room, but I wanted a way to get your Sims fun up, and honestly, TV is a really fun one. Also, I don't know if anyone else has this in their game, but, like, I get the TV premiere event, like, a weird amount. And so it's just nice sometimes to have that TV and just be able to be like, all right, go watch this show. It's fine, whatever. It's going to make you immeasurably amounts of happy, and it gets you out of my hair for like a minute. I really love these curtains that I put up here. Honestly, like, the default bigger size, not as cute as when it's sized down. It makes sense for the windows, so I left it sized up on that main window, but, like, it's so much cuter sized down. I think so many of those things in The Sims I kind of feel that way, where it's like, it's cuter sized down. I don't know why that is. And those lanterns in the corner that we just walked away from, the two that are sized down, the candle part will not be on the wick, but because it's enclosed, it's not super easy to tell, so it should be okay. It's one of those where you can kind of fudge it a little bit. But in general, it's not usually a good idea to size down candles because they have an animated wick, and the animation on the wick does not, or an animated flame, excuse me, and the animation on the flame does not scale down. So if you scale it down too far, your flame will be outside of your candle or completely off your candle. Just worth noting. Honestly, one of my favorite things about this house might be this cabinet. I stuffed it chock-a-block full of things that I think make it look like a really well-stocked apothecary cabinet. I have, like, all kinds of random nonsense. This is where, like, the predominant amount of all, like, the kits come from in the list, is all of the little clutters. There's jars, there's paintbrushes that look like spoons, there's bottles, I have different plants that look kind of vaguely like spooky, there's like some food items and like all kinds of things. I really like how this little cabinet turned out. There's another little mortar and pestle, even though there's a big one on the apothecary table. And the rest of the kitchen isn't quite as cluttered, because if I was like living and working out of my kitchen, I would work real hard to try to make sure it wasn't cluttered, because if I'm going to have like clients in here, if you're doing like the apothecary skill, I don't want it to look like crazy pants, right? Like, I just don't want that. And that stove will function with that that kettle on the back, the teapot on the back. If you put it on a back burner, the Sims don't use the back burner, so it's usually okay. You do usually need to test it out, but in general, if you line it up with the back burners, you're usually fine. So, just worth noting. And then a little bit more herb over here. I had to put a little more plant in because, of course we do. We're tied to nature. That's the whole point of the pack. Back in the bathroom to organize things a little bit. Obviously needed some $50 toilet paper, because why not? An organizational cabinet, because a girl still got to do skincare. The little birdhouse out here. There's bees in the back. I thought that made sense because obviously you're doing a little garden and stuff. Although there's no actual garden on this lot. There's a lot of plant pots, but there's not like an actual garden bed. You could really easily, like, if you just picked up the whole house and like scooted it 2 blocks to the left, you'd have a lot more space. So, like, there's totally room to put a garden out there. I just didn't. I just had it all up on the deck. I thought it made sense. Because, again, I was kind of imagining if this was in a tree, the edges would get slippy. So I kind of liked that, like, most things were kind of up on the lot a little bit, kind of elevated in the house, in the tree house area. And then in here, I just was trying to get the vibe of, like, you know, I guess an apothecary storage area, but just also in general, just the very much vibe of, this is a skill room, this is a mess room, this is where all of the things that she doesn't need all the time, but needs some of the time, happen. Oh, and I put this well. That's not the wishing well. You could absolutely put the wishing well in. This well has flowers in it. I thought it was pretty. So I put that in. You could trade it out for the wishing well if you wanted to. The wishing well is a really interesting item because it can doom your Sims or it can make your Sims really happy. It's kind of a little bit of like follows the letter of the wish versus the intent of the wish. So you might wish for a child, and if the well is feeling like really helpful, it might give you a child, or it might make your Sim pregnant, or it might give you like fertility bonuses. If it's feeling unhappy, you might get like a ghost child, or it might just tell you to go buzz off, you know. So that's a really fun gameplay feature if you want to add that in. I opted to not to, just because I liked the look of the bushes in the retired wishing well is what it's called. But there's another gameplay feature if you really want to add one. I was looking at bar backs and things here because I was trying to come up with like a huge clutter for the wall. I did put a cauldron in here just because it was giving spellcaster vibes a little bit here, and I was like, well, it'd be cool if you wanted to put like a spellcaster in here. So I did just put a cauldron down here in storage. You can use it if you want. If your sim isn't a spellcaster, they can make mac and cheese in it, which is really helpful if you have like a big party or whatever. You can pull it out, you can sell it, whatever you want. I just thought it kind of felt like something funny to have in storage for a fairy. Like, where did she get that? Why does she have that, you know? Same thing kind of with the reclaimed wood working table down here. Just felt like something that this fairy probably needed at some point, right? And maybe it's in storage right now because, like, she's not actively doing a lot of woodworking, but, like, maybe she needs an outhouse. Who knows? You know, like, maybe she's working on getting her handiness up. Maybe she wants to go to the Forgotten Grotto. You need a bunch of handiness for that. So, just those kind of things. And also, again, I wanted to just remind you for the upteenth time that was kind of the intention behind the basement, is it's a flex space. It's a skill building space. So, there's skills down there. Very fun. Lots of skills on this lot. Lots of skills that seem to work with this pack, I hope, reasonably. Maybe? Because there's also gardening on this lot as well. There's not a barbecue on this lot. In part because every sim I've made since, like, dealing with the nature side of things has lit a barbecue on fire. In fact, if you watch the mini-series where we did the Nature's Calling event, the very last episode, my sim lit the barbecue on fire. I don't know what's going on with that. So there's no barbecue on this lot. I might be anti-barbecue for just, like, a little bit here. I really wish it wasn't springtime, because this yard would look really, really vibrant and pretty if it was not springtime. But actually, the muted isn't bad either, because you know growing is coming, right? You know it's like coming up and it's gonna be really pretty, and I think it gives good vibes. But anyways, I have been talking at your ear, I'm not joking, for well over 20 minutes now. So I'm gonna let you hang out in the screenshots, and I'm gonna head out of here. I hope you're having a good day and you're feeling loved, and if you're not feeling loved, you better know that I love you for certain. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here hanging out. You make the world a better place just by being you. Stick around and we'll do some more building and stuff. But yeah, I hope you like this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm actually kind of surprised I had as much fun with this one as I did. But I think that's all for me. Okay, love you. Bye. Mwah.